Happy Independence Day, or should I say Interdependence Day. I'm Lesli Dories, your marriage coach, and I've been thinking a lot about marriage, independence, freedom, how these words fit together, how these concepts fit together. And with the celebration of the founding of the United States, it took me back to a big mistake that the United States started out with. And that was the Articles of Confederation. That was the first attempt by our founding fathers to form a new kind of government. And the idea was that you take these 13 colonies that successfully managed to get out from underneath British rule and join them together in some sort of new way of being. And this was the Articles of Confederation gave much more power to the individual states than they did for the national identity, the national government. And the Articles of Confederation failed because what was happening was the individual states, the former colonies, were more focused on their own independence, their own way of being, and not part of this bigger thing called the United States of America. And the same thing happens in many, many marriages. Now, I get it. A lot of people think that it's a choice of maintaining that independence. I'm not going to be told what to do or how to do it or whatever, and being completely subsumed by dependence, meaning I don't have an original or independent thought in my head. And like most things, it's not an either or, it's actually a both and. You need to be able in your marriage to be who you are, and your wife needs to be able to be who she is, but under the umbrella of this thing that's bigger than both of you, which is your marriage. And this idea that human beings are independent anyway is a fallacy, which is why it didn't work with the founding of the country. We, as human beings, very few of us can survive completely on our own, meaning with no contact, no interaction, no cooperation with other people. Human beings as a species are community-based creatures. We are meant to live in community. Now, this sets up this ongoing tension between who you are as an individual and how you fit into the bigger picture. And in most cases, unlike the United States of America that finally formed a functional constitution that took into account both the needs of the individual states and the needs of the greater entity, right? Marriage does the same thing. You can't separate them out. But when you are married, everything that you do directly or indirectly impacts your spouse and vice versa. And it's much easier and much more functional and healthy to talk about those things, decide whether or not you want to do a Bill of Rights, that's up to you, but to decide what your marriage constitution is going to be, right? And it should not ask you or demand of you to do things that are not in alignment with who you are as an individual. Marriage is about you plus. You plus your partner, you plus this idea of something being more important than either one of you individually. Now, again, that doesn't mean that what you want as individuals doesn't matter. Of course it does, because if you become completely dependent, then this is where grounds for resentment of one of you is going to come from. Either the person who has to make all the decisions is going to get resentful because they feel like they're on their own, or the other person gets resentful because they feel like what matters to them is never even considered. Both of those things are unhealthy. And it's also unhealthy to decide that we don't have to deal with each other at all. One of the things that did in the Articles of Confederation had to do with finances. The individual states did not want to send money to the federal government. And this is what I see a lot of times in marriages, where people want to keep their finances completely separate and then still function. And, you know, I get it. I understand that a lot of this behavior, just like with the states, they were trying to protect themselves. But you can't be sort of married. I mean, people try it all the time. I get it. I mean, I'm not saying, I shouldn't say you can't. It just doesn't work very well, right? It only works if you are functioning as a team, if you are making decisions together. And I mean, if you decide that the house needs to get cleaned once a week, and you do this part of it, you do the vacuuming and the dusting, and your partner does the mopping and the cleaning of the bathrooms, that's fine, right? And by the way, my partner gets to do their part of it their way, and I get to do my part of it my way, as long as we're doing it together. This is the same thing about our money. It's the same thing about all of these things, that we actually have a conversation about this. This is the lesson I want you to take away from the failure of the Articles of Confederation. We are meant to be in community. We are meant to work together. We are meant to be interdependent. It's not independence versus dependence. It is, how do we come together and work for a greater goal? And the truth of the matter is that we have research that shows truly interdependent relationships where we're both giving and receiving are the healthiest relationships that exist, and actually contribute to your personal happiness and your personal success. So take this history lesson for what it's worth. Hopefully you found it helpful, and if you did, please subscribe to the channel. And if you struggle with what it means to be interdependent or how to do it without losing yourself, please get in contact with me. It doesn't have to be as difficult as most people think. So, happy 4th of July, and until next week, stay loving.